Japanese people of Reddit, what are some things people should know to do and not do before visiting Japan? I am Japanese and welcome everyone to visit. Don't be scared, we are now trying to be more tourist friendly. The big mistake I see foreign make. A. Disrupt order. We Japanese like lines and quiet. If everyone follow this system it works better. B. Forget turn off your cell phone ring notify. C. Wear light clothes than you think. Sometimes even if temperature is okay, humidity is really bad. The big advice I have. A. Bring small gift from your country. It will always start conversation. Can be very cheap, but good Japanese way to start. B. Try a small local or family restaurant instead of business restaurant. Ask for their recommendation. Make them happy. You'll enjoy it more than your next McDonald's. I love your response. Thank you. Sumimasen. Learn that word. Start every single sentence with it. It means sorry, excuse me. Use it when asking for directions. As another way to say thank you when entering a new place. If there is one word you need to learn, it's sumimasen. This second phrase should be arigatou gozaimasu. It means thank you very much, and I think I said it about 1,000,000 times when I was there for 2 weeks. I saw some white dude at Shibuya crossing flaunting his headband with kamikaze written on it. Yeah, that. Always ask what the kanji means before buying stuff with kanji on it. My Japanese teacher had a list of the worst kanji tattoos she'd ever seen. It was pretty hilarious. She said she stopped saying anything to people because either they'd become very upset or try to weirdly double down and act like she was the one who didn't know what it meant. Carry cash. They'll take cards, but it's unusual and I've gotten looks for it. You can access international ATMs at 7-Eleven and the post offices. Just be polite. It gets you a long way, even if you don't know the language well. If you're gracious, it gets you a long way. This is the most surprising to me. I live in New Zealand where everywhere accepts electronic payments, not always credit cards, but always the local national bank cards. It's weird hearing that a country so far ahead technologically doesn't use electronic payments almost exclusively. I'm not Japanese, but I've lived in Japan the majority of my life. Live in a Japanese household and work only with Japanese people. 1. Don't worry about eating and walking. It says this is bad in guidebooks but nobody cares. 2. Do not talk loudly on the train. This is probably the thing that annoys Japanese people more than anything. In the train, you can talk, but for God's sake, don't speak loudly. To add to that, you are probably speaking louder than you think. Speaking loudly on the train isn't shouting. Speaking your normal volume is probably loud for the train. Speak at the volume you would speak at a museum. Everyone was very nice and plenty of folks speak English, but I always felt like people warmed up even more because I took the time to learn literally 10 words of Japanese. A little effort goes a long way. Hello, goodbye, thank you very much, where is, check please, 1 through 10, etc. Also I saved a ton of money by eating breakfasts at 7-Eleven. Obligatory not Japanese. Lived here for the majority of my life. However, if there's one thing to do in Japan, just be quiet. Pretend you're in a museum. You don't have to yell on the train. It also helps to have situational awareness. If you can avoid blocking the street aisle, you're already doing better than 90% of tourists and Japanese combined. Don't touch everything in shops, especially grocery stores. If you rent a bicycle or something, don't be an idiot on it. I don't recommend renting a bike if you're not from a bike-friendly place. Before you do something, ask yourself, would a mainland Chinese tourist or Logan Paul do this? If the answer is yes, don't do it. That last one is good advice for day-to-day life. Didn't see this mentioned, but rent a pocket Wi-Fi. It's cheaper than most SIM cards or international data plans and tends to have amazing coverage. It means that you always have Google Maps Translate available. I constantly used maps while navigating Tokyo. They can also usually be picked up and dropped off at the airport. Not Japanese, but went there a few years back and got a few tips from a family friend who was born and raised in Tokyo. There are a lot of vending machines. You are expected to consume whatever you buy and dispose of the can bag in the same place. Usually a small trash can for that purpose. Seats are dang hard to find at the busy spots. Most restaurants have either picture menus or little plastic versions of the food. So ordering is easy. If you eat at a place with a chef, sushi, yakitori, etc., compliment the chef. Some don't have set prices, so lavish praise may lower your bill, and it is just plain fun. When looking for sushi near the fish market, just look for the place with a line out the door. Doesn't matter which one, but the one with the line of locals is going to be the best. A few observations from being there. Seats are rare to find. If you need to sit for a few minutes, look for an American fast food chain. You can get a drink, clear your head, and sit for a few minutes. People are amazing. We had one guy cross 6 lanes of traffic to help direct us to the Tokyo Museum. We had another get off a train and walk us through the right connections to get us to the bullet train we booked to Kyoto. As in, he rode 20 or 30 minutes out of his way just to make sure we got there. Old people are grumpy as heck. They were like Florida retirees whose favorite buffet closed down. The contrast with everyone else being so very nice made this particularly entertaining. Ask before taking people's pictures. This is true everywhere, but people seemed particularly sensitive to this in Tokyo and Kyoto. You can just hold up the camera and smile and ask the question with facial expressions. No need to learn the Japanese phrase. Almost everyone was fine with it, but a few refused. Don't take anything too seriously. Set out every day to get lost, to embarrass yourself with a local, to buy something silly, and to eat something of unknown origin. You will have much better memories that way. If you end up in one of the clubs in Roppongi, go with people you trust. There's a high chance someone might spike your drink. White person living in Kyoto etc. Please don't take pictures of the maiko without permission. You can always ask Shashin Kudasai if they don't seem to be in a hurry. Please don't bother the maiko when they are in a hurry. Please don't grab the maiko. There was a disappointing rash of this in the last few years. One poor girl had her kimono torn. Maiko are usually very young women, and it's appalling what some people will do. Maiko are a type of geisha, and can be seen in Jun. They are usually apprentices. Bring or buy a blank notebook. There are plenty of souvenir stamps at attractions, train stations to collect, usually near the exit. It's great fun and lovely memento to have. Google Stamp Rally for more info. Stamp Rally. Most stations have their unique stamp design. Don't speak Japanese like in your favorite anime. Japanese in anime is unique to anime and sounds very weird in a social setting with real people. Don't speak Japanese like in your favorite anime. Japanese in anime is unique to anime and sounds very weird in a social setting with real people. Yeah, I won't be talking to those anytime soon. Watch what you say when in public, thinking that no one will understand what you're saying. A surprising number of Japanese people understand spoken English while a whole lot don't. But how can you tell which category those around you fall into? People that only speak English and don't assume most people can understand them is bizarre. Almost every English-speaking foreigner who lives in Japan permanently will think they are better than you, and every small thing about Japan that you enjoy they will hate because they've seen it already. It kind of sounds like there's a story here. Not 100% Japanese but 25% Japanese blah blah, but living in Japan. There will be some people who will compliment on your chopstick using ability and be like, sugoi ni. Hashi wa jouzu desu ni wa, you're good at using chopsticks. Don't get offended if you hear this, even if you've been using chopsticks ever since you were a 0-year child. Some little Japanese people have never seen a foreigner person ever seen a Japanese person use chopsticks. Instead of getting offended at that statement, use it as a starting point. Start a conversation to bridge a gap formed from ignorance, and develop a relationship. You might create a friend and a karaoke partner. I had the same reaction when I visited China, and I'm part Chinese. Grew up eating with chopsticks, which is seriously not a big deal, but everyone there was like, you're so good at IT, and for some reason in shock. After the third time I was getting a bit annoyed. You can drink alcohol outside. Enjoy the weather. AMD, take a walk with your drink of choice. Go to the park as well. Do not do this when you get back home. Not Japanese, but I visited Japan a few times. One thing I noticed specifically compared to the US was a lack of drinking fountains, so it's a good idea to carry a water bottle with you. Also, try some of the noodle restaurants. Sushi is the most well-known Japanese food and it is delicious, but proper Japanese ramen is also great and well worth trying while you're over there. It's a popular lunch option. 15 years living in Japan. 4 in the sticks and 11 in Tokyo. I feel like I have to chime in on some of the popular do's and don'ts that keep coming up in this thread. Tattoos, not that big a deal. Only a problem if you want to enter a private establishment like an onsen, hot spring, gym, or private swimming pool. Some local councils have tried banning tattoos at public beaches, but there hasn't been much about it recently, as I suspect you can't legally bar people from public areas. Otherwise, no one will bat an eye at your tattoos. Eating while walking. Again, not really an issue. Stopping to eat your snack is pretty common sense anywhere really. I've never seen or heard of anyone having trouble doing this. Keeping your voice down on a train. Yes, trains are typically silent spaces in Tokyo. Travel to Osaka though and you may notice a difference. Trains there can be very chatty places. Personally, I wish Tokyo at least, wouldn't be so uptight about talking in trains. People talking in public? Whatever next. Chopsticks etiquette. Most of the advice about it here is pretty true though. As a foreigner you're hardly going to get dragged over the coals for any infringement. Not sticking your chopsticks upright in food is generally pretty sound advice. Pouring soy sauce on rice. Why would you do this anyway? It's akin to putting ketchup in your coffee. Apart from anything else, you're making it almost impossible to eat with chopsticks. Free umbrellas. This is a complete internet myth. On rainy days there are little umbrella holders for you to put your umbrella in as opposed to dripping water all over the shop floor. You take one of these umbrellas and you're a thief. Seriously, I've had so many umbrellas stolen on wet days here that if I ever catch someone taking my umbrella, I'll tear out their soul. Carry cash. Yep, banking is stuck in the early 20th century here. Even if an ATM displays Cirrus or Plus logos, that's no guarantee they will work with your foreign card. Top tip: 7 bank ATMs, 7-Eleven affiliated ATMs, work with most foreign cards and can be found in all 7-Eleven stores. When going to a restaurant, don't ask for modifications for food. For example, don't ask can you make this without please. Very little vegetarian option. Not a faux pas since most sushi places offer salmon now, but salmon sushi is not really authentic, so if you go somewhere super authentic, don't order salmon as you will embarrass yourself. Get an IC card at any station and use it as a contactless payment method at vending machines, convenience stores, and other major stores as well as public transport. Best underrated places in Japan? I'd say Hokkaido, Okinawa, Nagano, or really anywhere not Tokyo Kanto areas or Kyoto Osaka. These 2 metros are so crowded. Experiment with the toilet buttons to feel refreshed every time nature is calling. Toto toilets are godsend. People don't speak English well, and if you are foreign looking or speak English they will have some weird interest on you. Tokyo people speak English somewhat but still pretty dismal. Buy electronics. Go to big shops and just go for the experience. Go to your Dobushi camera or big camera. Everyone working there is so knowledgeable. Speaking of, get a SIM card from big camera if you are visiting. Taxis are very expensive. Take limousine bus from airports for convenient transport. Do go to chain restaurants as they are really good value and really yummy. Don't tip. They'll think you forgot your change. Source: from Tokyo. Heads up. They do pixelate your genitals at Narita Airport, so get one last good look at them while you are on the plane. Can confirm. Currently pixelated. Fortunately it obscures the size. My first time visiting Japan in the Navy, my shipmates convinced me that B meant both hello and goodbye. I went around saying it to everyone I met. I didn't find out until we were shoving off that B does not, in fact, mean either of those things. This was in the 90s, before any teen with a computer could unravel the mysteries of P via internet. B is a style of noodles. I've been working in Japan for well over a year now, and this is the best advice I can give. You are and will always be an outsider. Be ready to be fetishized and infantilized. Don't take insult to this. You are a guest and be open to that. Respect them and they will be friendly. Also 3 weeks of Duolingo would go a long way. Fetishized and infantilized. On my way. I'm an American but stay out of the fish markets in Osaka or Tokyo. Not sure which. Was drunk and long time ago. At 2 AM unless you're specifically supposed to be there. Not Japanese, but been here for 6 years. 1. Drink anywhere, but nuisance nowhere. 2. Non-Japanese representatives of all foreigners. 1. Logan Paul destroys the work of 1000 Matthew Chosicks. 3. Police make people disappear 4 weeks at a time at 99% conviction rate. Don't be a criminal. 4. Arigato gozaimasu and sumimasen. 5. Just because the women beautiful doesn't mean you can't hit on them at their day job, train, commute, standard public scenario. Too many people come here, get trashed and ask me flirting dialogue only. Leave your hormones with customs. And 6. Speak Japanese like you're genuinely interested in communicating. Grammar and vocabulary mistakes are only held against legit business and residents of Japan. They appreciate a tourist with more than a smattering. With these in mind, you'll have a rewarding experience. Enjoy the country. Japanese itself though is pretty forgiving. Single nouns, verbs, and adjectives are linguistically correct sentences if context is sufficient. A whole bunch of stuff is optional or can be moved around. There are fewer regular verbs and almost no plural forms with a few special case extensions or words for common plural items. Now the writing systems are another matter. This is going to sound very strange, and I'm not sure if you're a uterus owner or not, but bring enough tampons, pads, whatever, and cramp medication. If you take birth control, get extras from your doctor. It's really hard to find tampons in some foreign countries, and if you don't know the language, you might not know where they're stored. Also, pain meds are usually lower strength. Have fun. I bought a Diva cup on my trip. That changed everything for me. The videos are also super handy. Children will stare at you. Not really in cities, but outside cities. I was in Sapporo, and in the city, no one cared about my boyfriend and I, but when we booked 45 minutes out of the city, we stopped at a convenience store and there were school-aged children outside and they could not stop looking at us. It's like they had never seen white people in person before. They even followed us for a bit. Was definitely weird for us, but we didn't mind. Depends on where you are going. I'm from the Tokyo area, so I can't speak to the regional cities. Avoid rush hour trains. And if you do get on trains during rush hour, take off your backpack. Also, forget your sense of personal space. This is a high density country. If you're not Asian, you'll stand out. Even if you're Asian, you'll still stand out. You may be treated differently. You may get stared at. It's unfortunate, but it's improving. I'm happy, so I speak from first-hand experience. I'm assuming you speak English, but so will everyone else. Maybe this isn't an issue. I haven't lived in Japan since the inbound demand spike, so this may have changed, but I feel like foreigners equals English speaking is the general perception. As you'll most likely stand out as a tourist, you'll be likely given a free pass, but there are many unspoken manner rules. Some are mentioned like the standing on escalator, etc. In general, be respectful. Eating, drinking on trains is generally frowned upon. Speaking loudly on the train is frowned upon. Unless your train is in an emergency, don't use your phone on the train. As a smartphone for texting, internet, games is fine. Obviously, don't litter. Unfortunately, things in Japan are ridiculously packaged. It's both a good convenience and bad, inefficient thing. They'll give you tiny plastic bags at convenience stores, so just keep one in your purse and collect your garbage in there. It'll add up. Again, likely given a free pass, but just know that people in Japan tend to dress more modestly, and tattoos just aren't generally accepted. You don't have to conform per se, but that is the environment you'll be going into. It's getting cooler, but regardless of the season, skin exposure for both men and women are less common than in the US. I don't know firsthand, but as you'll likely stand out, you may be targeted by aggressive salespeople. Maybe, I'm not sure on this one. Japan is a beautiful country and I hope to return soon. I'm from the Kanto area as mentioned, but I like the Shikoku Islands as well. The mountains are wonderful. If you are going to Tokyo area, Oyama is quite accessible. Hakone region is also wonderful. It's a different environment though, but if you don't like there, I don't think you have to stress about fitting in. Be respectful obviously, but there's not a lot that will happen if you're not within legal bounds, obviously. Have fun. Food is amazing. The convenience is mind-blowing after living too long in the US. Bureaucracy can be a nightmare, but I doubt you'll have to deal with that. Watch out for Nigerian street gangs trying to scam you, and don't bother going to the red light district as a foreigner because none of the XXX places will let you in. Also be prepared to spend a lot of money. Seriously. It's pretty hard to find public Wi-Fi. Consider getting pocket Wi-Fi or some other source of connection if you need reliable internet connectivity. Carry cash around. It's not common for people to pay with card. Most convenience stores have international ATMs. Don't be loud on the train or bus. People hate that. If you're sitting in the priority seat area, make sure to stand up and offer your seat to the elderly and disabled. You won't be able to go to most pools or onsens, hot springs, if you have any tattoos. Small ones can be covered up with a band-aid. If you're driving, be careful on the roads. Driver seat and car lanes are opposite from many countries. The roads are also really narrow and you'll probably be scared of hitting people in crowded areas. You'll have to honk a lot because people tend to not stand clear of the road a lot of times. Get an IC card, Suka, Pasmo, iCoca, whatever works, unless you want to buy a ticket every time you want to get on a train. Getting a junior rail pass, only for foreigners, is probably worth it if you plan on using the trains often. Don't tip. There is no such thing. In general, be polite. If you feel like you are being too polite, that's probably the right amount. Lived in Japan for a total of 15 months over the period 2012 to 2014. A lot of what I'd suggest has been covered, but one thing that isn't mentioned: learn katakana. Japan has 3 alphabets, 1 logographic alphabet, kanji, 2 phonetic alphabets, hiragana and katakana. Kanji is the traditional Chinese characters and represents 90% of the written Japanese language. You aren't gonna learn those in a reasonable time frame, so don't bother. Hiragana is used pretty much solely for minor grammar, particles etc., and spelling out kanji for situations where it's not clear, so is fairly useless unless you speak the language. Okay, that's a bit harsh. It's useful in limited cases, like recognizing certain train station names, but generally most of those situations you will skip if you're just visiting, or there will be audio cues. Katakana, however, when I lived there, this was very useful. Katakana covers the same sound range as hiragana, and so anything you can write in hiragana can be directly transliterated into katakana without problems. But the Japanese people use it for one thing only: writing foreign words, and things derived from foreign words. That means if you need, say, ibuprofen, it's literally ibuprofen. A convenience store is shortened to konbini. Japan treats B and V as the same, like L and R. Or, in the modern world, so many things have English or English-derived names, so this was a huge help for me. Bonus: ramen is considered foreign, so you'll see that in katakana a lot. Oh, also, if you go to the onsen, hot springs baths, remember to bathe before you hop in the bath. Yes, I know that sounds silly, but do it. Traditionally, there'll be an entry room with little seats with buckets, soap, shampoo and maybe shower heads nearby to scrub down with. If you don't clean up first, you will be considered a filthy barbarian, more so than usual. You can also learn katakana in a week or 2 if you put some effort into it. There's really no reason not to. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.